Al. Good morning. How are you?
Top of the day. I love the question you asked Case Keenum about if he was in full uniform walking through Hollywood, would anybody recognize him? It's very appropriate. Thanksgiving. Well, of course, before Thanksgiving, we've got Halloween coming up. So that would be very interesting.
When's the last?
Anybody would recognize him.
When's the last time you sicked out that you missed an event?
Whew. I don't want to knock on wood. I don't want to, as they say in Yiddish, give myself a Kenahara. But I haven't missed an assignment.
Ever?
Well, not that I was supposed to be a part of. I think my sister got married about 30 years ago, and they gave me the day off, which was very nice of them.
Oh, okay.
But apart from that, no. I've been able to play hurt, Dan.
I like
much
that.
as you did in Sochi.
Yeah.
Or didn't, because I had to fill in for you for 3 or 4 days.
You know, they were going to give me like a commemorative Olympic gold medal for that, and I said no, I didn't want that. But you were there, and you saw how sick I was, Al.
My favorite memories of Sochi, the Olympics in 2014. Well, it's not Bob's favorite memory, of course, because our colleague, Mr. Costas, developed some form of pink eye and was in the room between hours. So as I had to pass by his room to get to the elevators every day, I would climb the wall on the other side of the hall. Now, you got the flu, but the best part of that, or at least my favorite memory, would be going to the gym. I think you were sick for 3 or 4 days. On the second day, I go down to the gym after I sneak by Costas's room, and Lester Holt is having a workout, the likes of which I had never seen. The great Lester Holt, the supreme anchor of NBC Nightly News, is working out as if he is training for either the Green Berets or to fight the heavyweight champion of the world. Marine push-ups and the whole thing. And there is one, Mr. Dan Patrick, in his bathrobe, glassy-eyed, absolutely beyond under the weather, in all caps and exclamation points, and I'm a Stairmaster.
Yeah.
And I will never forget that. Do you still have that bathrobe with you?
Yes, I do.
You took it right out of the closet at the Radisson.
The lovely, I don't know if it's still there in Sochi. I don't know if Sochi's still there, Al.
They built this, whole complex and the resort, and I guess, haven't they had a Grand Prix race or something? They were
Yes.
supposed to have some Formula One race over there, and I don't know. I mean, to me, they did a nice job. They pulled off the Olympics, and let's forget, those were the Olympics where terrorism was front and center in the media, and the great Richard Engel, the NBC foreign news correspondent, came by one day and he said, why is nobody here? And I said, Richard, because you scared the hell out of everybody.
That's true. Every article had to do with terrorism, right. And we're all going to die. Al, I didn't even leave. I went to the hotel, the broadcast center, and then I would come back. And I repeated that, I think, for about 17 days. I never even went into downtown Sochi because our security expert said you can't go in there. And unless you go in there, I have to go in there with you. And we have to have military clearance. We have to sweep the restaurant. I went, oh, my God.
Yeah. We had our own security detail. And there was a guy who was, who was speaking about coughing. I'm like Fritzy now. He must have sent it through the phone line here. We had a guy who somebody had brought over, and he had written a book about security in Sochi and all of that, and he kept calling himself the Colonel. He was a colonel in someplace, I don't know where he was. But he was from Kentucky, so naturally I named him Colonel Sanders. And that was not as good as London, where we had dinner every night, nor as good as Rio, where I only saw you on weekends, but we did go to that Cholesterol Palace restaurant 2 or 3 times.
You love that, though.
Oh my God.
I told the Danettes, I said, I don't know what the name of the place was, but they were carving beef, and that's all you needed.
And they would do it about every 5 seconds. They would come by with, it didn't matter what it was, porterhouse, filet, tenderloin, whatever. And then the chicken came by, and then they had sushi. And the place was jammed every night, as you remember.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. I mean, that was heaven for me. I mean, every 5 minutes, a guy's coming by with the skewer and the thing, and and we're taking the tongues, and it was phenomenal.
He's Al Michaels, NBC Sports, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. The Danettes loved. Now, I wasn't able to listen to all of this, but the second half fill material when the Steelers are blowing out the Chiefs, you and Chris all of a sudden, like the game is secondary, but at what point do you go into the treasure trove of memories and start talking about things that maybe aren't applicable to the game itself?
Well, let's put it this way. There are different points when you do that. One of those points would be when the halftime score is 29-0, because you are thinking about people, especially in the Eastern time zone, and there's not a lot of drama. So if you're going to sit there and do strategy in a 29-0 game, you're not going to have listeners for very long, much longer, or viewers. And it's not as if you ignore the game. You try to talk about things that are inside the game itself, for what it's worth at that point. And there are a lot of stories that we can tell. I mean, Alejandro Villanueva, the left tackle of Pittsburgh, is a great story. Michelle Tafoya had a couple of stories that she was able to tell. You do that, and then you play around a little bit. And then also the other night we had the pieces ready to go because Arnold Palmer had died the week before. So we had a little retrospective about Mr. Palmer. I believe the service is today in Latrobe. Vin Scully had retired that day from the Dodgers, and Dick Enberg, who was a longtime NBC broadcaster as well as doing the Angels and now the San Diego Padres for the last several years. Dick was retiring as well. So, we were able to try to keep, we were going to do that anyway with Dick and Vinny and with Arnold. But, at that particular point, maybe you expand it a little bit. But, I mean, you can't sit there and go, here's what they're thinking on 3rd and 3 down by 29 points.
Vin Scully's genius was what?
Vinny's genius was a lot of things. I mean, first of all, he did this for 67 years. I said to Chris on the air the other night, because it popped into my head, that who has a 67-year career in anything? Name somebody, anybody, an executive, a factory worker. That's 67 years. That's next to impossible, because you have to start when you're about 20. The guy that came to mind, who was at the top of his game for all of those years, was Don Rickles. Don Rickles started as a comedian in his early 20s, and he still did a one-man show that I went to last January, and he is still, very close to the top of his game. Vinny had a tremendous connection with the audience. He went through generations of Dodger fans. Look, I listened to him since I was 6 years old. I grew up in Brooklyn. We moved to L.A. concurrent with the Dodgers, so I've heard Vinny my entire life. And the unbelievable thing, Dan, is that, I mean, as recently as a month ago, I'm driving home, coming off the freeway. I'm listening to Vinny call a game. It's the Dodgers and the Rockies in late August or whatever it was. It didn't mean anything. The game didn't mean much. And Vinny's telling a couple of stories. And all I know is I got into my driveway, and I don't open up the garage door because I need 5 more minutes to hear Vinny finish the story. So the car is idling. And I'm thinking to myself, this is unbelievable. I was listening to this man do this in the early 50s, and now I'm hearing it in 2016. And, it's funny because Bob Costas and I, we were in Pittsburgh the other day, and I went on to Slingbox, and we just happened to catch, Bob and I caught Vinny's last, 15 minutes of doing the Dodger-Giant game the other day. It was phenomenal. And I'm thinking to myself, why is he retiring? Now, I understand that. I mean, he was phenomenal the other day. It's as good as any broadcast I've ever heard Vin do. But I do get the fact that, it's one thing to say, hey, you can really, ratchet it up for the end of your career. It's another thing, I'm sure, if Vinny would look ahead and say, I've got to do 100 games next year.
Yeah.
So God bless him. He's been amazing. I mean, I was there on opening day when they honored him. They asked me to MC the ceremony. You couldn't believe it. I mean, the fans were going crazy for 10 minutes. And I wasn't here for the last game he did at Dodger Stadium where it ended with a home run. Remarkable. I mean, he's a freak of nature. That's the only way I can put it, Dan. There's so many things that made him so great, but he is the connective tissue with generations of Dodger fans.
I was also talking to the Danettes about this. We were talking about Odell Beckham Jr. and how, the way games are produced now, it's a reality show. You have storylines, right, personalities. You focus on the stars no matter what. Keep a camera on them no matter what. But can you take us behind the scenes of Sunday Night Football with Odell Beckham Jr. and how that storyline you think plays out, or how you cover somebody like that who can be animated, controversial, colorful, dramatic, all of that in the span of a 3-hour broadcast?
Well, we have him this week, in fact. So the Giants go to Lambeau Field, and you know Fred Godelli, our producer, who's the best I've ever worked with, maybe the best of all time, as a sports producer, maybe as a producer, period. They should have him do the Oscars and every other big show. I'm sure what Fred is thinking, and our thought process is similar. People want to know what Beckham is up to. So a lot of this is driven by what does the audience want to see? And a lot of it because of Beckham's comportment over the past couple of weeks. You know, he's going up against Josh Norman. We see him last night. We see the meltdown where, you know, the kicking that almost decapitates him on the sideline. So there is a curiosity factor. So you can't ignore it. You don't want to overplay it. But people are interested in what is going on. And, look, television can take you places where you can't go. So as a consequence, there's nothing that the fan, I don't want to say relishes more, but needs to see as much as like a sideline confrontation. I hate to admit it because, you know, you want to say that the game is the thing, and the game is the thing. But there are all these subplots now, and you can get a camera just about everywhere. And then, you know, it's almost as if, look, there are so many shows now that are around the game, not ours, not yours, of course, not Football Night, because we're, you know, that's the gold standard, thanks to you. But the situation is, hey, let's make an hour out of whatever it is, and let's argue about it, and we'll have a little bit of light, but we'll have a lot of heat. And this is how, you know, the National Football League, and frankly all sports now, has become around the clock, all year long. Doesn't matter how long the off season is. We've got something to talk about. We've got crazy stuff to talk about. And so you do try to walk that fine line, though, Dan, where, you know, you don't overplay it, but people want to see what's going on. Maybe nothing happens. If nothing's going on, then our cameras probably won't be focused there very long. If something's going on, they will be focused there.
And sometimes we'll focus on something if nothing's going on because we expect something to go on, but we're showing you that nothing's going on, and that's what the storyline is.
That's exactly right. You know, it's like covering the national anthem these days. What do you want to do with this now? I mean, who's kneeling, who's putting their right fist in the air, maybe nobody's doing anything. So we're to the point now where most games, opening weekend, I think everybody covered the anthem. Now I think Monday night covered it last night, but we're to the point now we're in a commercial break during the anthem, and most of the other telecasts are. But you feel, you know, you can't lecture people as to what's going on, but they want to see what's going on. So you have to cover it.
You think you could broadcast for another 20 years?
Another 20 years.
Could you do what Vin is doing?
Nah, I don't think so. I hope so. You know, it's a little different. I think, you know, when you're the team announcer, there's this tremendous connection. I mean, you're part of the family. And I think one of the differences between, you know, what Vinny's done all these years and what I've done is all of my work is on national television. So I'm not part of the family to the extent that, you know, that Vinny could be. You know, maybe people know how, okay, it's Al's on the air, it's Sunday Night Football, and, you know, all those years it was Monday. But, you know, maybe they're happy you're there, maybe they're not happy you're there, maybe they don't give a damn. With the team announcer, you're in the family. I mean, you might as well be the brother, the father, the uncle. You're there every night, and Vinny's been there. So it's a little different for me. I mean, I'm kind of like, I've got to be the neutral observer in a way, where Vinny comes with the team. He was as popular a Dodger as anybody, including Koufax, Drysdale, you name it, through the years. 67 seasons. Unbelievable.
I'll leave you with this. The Danettes have a bet. What did you have for dinner last night?
I had sliced veal, and we were at your favorite place and mine as well. And Norman Lear happened to be in there last night, but I didn't see him.
The legendary
because I mentioned
Norman
that, you know, All in the Family was the number one show, and we're trying to be the number one show for 6 straight years to tie American Idol this year. And you know, it'll be a little bit of a struggle this year because when you have blowouts like we had Sunday night, that's not good. We go against the debate on Monday night. I hope people will tape the debate and watch the Giants and Packers live. I hope. And I hope you have a Nielsen book.
We'll be watching and listening on Sunday night there, Al.
And I'll be watching and listening to you, my boy.
Thank you, bud. Good to talk to you. All right, that's Al Michaels. Danettes were correct. Al had meat.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.